Right, it looks like we're all set here to get started. So obviously very happy to see so many of you joining. Hope you're ready for a lot of hands-on demonstrations. We will go through a lot of cases in a short time. As there are both current customers and people new to Komment, we will both do the demos, but also I'll start out with some hands-on or some demonstrations of how Komment works, how to set it up, and so forth, just so you all have a good idea of what it can be used to and how easy it is to work with. Along the call here, you can write all your questions in the chat. And we will answer them in the end of the call, every question that came in. I will also stay along afterwards if needed, if there are additional questions after the 30 minutes has passed. So just bring the questions you might have. Also, I want to say that you can always reach out after the call on via our website if you want to have access to a demo site, or you want to be able to try it out for free. So please just don't hesitate to reach out. But let's get started with the taking the first point on the agenda, which will be Komment basics. So I will just quickly go through what Komment is. Probably most of you know it, but just for the sake of it, everybody's on page here. So what you see here is basically just a sample app here with some sample data, demo data, and what you see in the bottom here is the Komment object. So right now we have the Komment object in what we call table mode. So you can do editing directly in the table. As I will show you shortly, you can do it also in two different ways as well. So the way it works is that basically, obviously, it works together with the data model, right? So the click data model, so you can do your selections on your other objects on chart, and then from in there you can then go in and basically change the data that you want to change. So let's just say here we want to have an open case. Let's just say no action. It could be anything. Obviously, it's just my imagination here. It's not Tina anymore. It should be Paul. Take this out before Monday. Spell like this, and then the user can basically just press save after he entered his comment. And as you can see, the data is now changed not only within the Komment object, but also in the other charts as well. So the case status has changed, and the people that were assigned here as responsible has also changed. So you can see again, if I click on call now, you can see, okay, the case that just changed will now show up. So it means that all the data that you save when you use Komment is made part of the click data model, meaning that you can use it in any way you would use any other data that you have. And so you can see that I now just took one record here, but I mean I can do several at the same time. As you can see here, I get a small marker indicating that, okay, I have some changes done for this record, but it's not saved yet, meaning that I don't have to sit and press save on each record every time. It can save a lot of time, obviously. So let's just say I wanted to change these. Let me take one more here, and I change these, and then these are saved as well. So what happens when I press save is that the data that we have for the specific records are stored in a QVD. Could also be a database, but in the most simple form, it's a QVD. That QVD is then directly loaded into the app again and joined on to the data model, meaning that the Komment table here will always show the latest, you can say, updated value for each of the widgets based on what the user have entered. However, there will always be an audit trail, because we have this QVD that basically holds the full history of all the data that has been saved for a given Komment object. and that data is obviously loaded in as well. You can control it all yourself, but it comes out of the box. So you can see here, this is basically just the table I have with all the changes that has ever been done in this app, and you can see for each case, case number 1, you see I've touched that a lot of times here, but you can basically follow all the traces of when some changes was made and who did it, and what was the actual value of the given fields at the time of change. So you have the full audit trail for any changes that you have or your users have done. Another good thing to know is that in the table object, it's actually also possible to apply the same, you can say, changes to multiple records at the same time. So you don't have to sit and you can say enter the same data many times. So we have what we call batch edit. So you basically activate the batch edit button, as you can see here. Then you say, okay, it's these 2 cases, now just some examples that I want to change. And then I press edit. And then I just say, okay, this should actually be follow-up instead, and it should be all. I will open it again, and they should follow up by next week or something. So I can save those. And you can see these 2 cases now changed all the way around here. So that's a very easy way to be able to change multiple records at the same time without having to sit and enter data many times. So this is the basic of how Komment works. Now before I move into the actual other use cases, I'll just quickly show you how easy it is to, or how you can say the setup is done. Because imagine or remember that everything I will show you now is just some examples that we have come up with. This tool is as basic, generic, and customizable as makes sense itself, meaning that you might be able, or you are able to customize it very closely to all your own use cases. So the main idea is that we have a table, we call it a fact table, that basically we tell the specific Komment object which table in your ClickSense application should it be associated with. So we keep this associative engine running as we're used to when working in Click. Then we have widgets, as we call them. So that's basically all the fields that you can see, the columns that you can see here. And we can have both read-only widgets, and we can have widgets that are actually something you can change. So let's say, for instance, the date widget and the country widget, they're read-only, so they're just there for reference. So you can see as a user, I'm not able to change anything in those. And that's many times great, but they're good for context for the end user. Then we'll go to the first one, the status that we can change. You can see here, that's a drop-down widget, so you can see you can easily select from the different widgets that you have. Then in the drop-down, we have provided 2 values for the user. So if I wasn't happy with that, I could add a third one. Let's just call it NA for easy access, and then you can see now that is also present in the drop-down. So it's that easy to change it. And that could also be, as we have done with the responsible persons, where you can use data from a data model instead to populate the dropdowns. So you're not defined to having to do it manually as a developer. So basically what you do is you populate these whatever widgets you want to put in for the user. There's obviously a lot of specific elements you can add to it, as you can see. So I won't go into these here, but that means that you can tailor it as you like. And once you're happy with that, we generate everything that needs to go into the script, because we are doing a partial reload, we're doing the save, but you don't need to touch any of that if you don't want to. So you can basically from here you can copy the script or directly insert it into the data model, and you're good to go. So it's a very, you can say, easy way to get started, and it's basically bulletproof. That being said, we have a lot of customers also doing different things while the partial reload is running, because that's what's triggered. So that's obviously also possible if you want to do that. So do different data manipulations actions while the partial reload is executed. And you can have multiple common objects on the same sheet, multiple common objects in the same app. So let me show you quickly the form mode here, because it's the same extension. Now it's just in a form instead, as you can see here. So only change is here I have changed the mode to a form mode, as you can see. And then I now rely on being able to select specific records in my data model. So I could do it from here. I can do it directly from the table. So I could take these two here and just say these are closed without an action and save those. So you can see it works the same way, just another way of basically setting it up depending on your use cases. And the third display option you have for the object is what we call pop-up. So that's where if you don't want to, you think the form mode here takes up too much space, you can simply visualize it as a button, floating button somewhere on the screen. So you can see here, I'm now selecting a case somewhere. Let's just say this one. Again, remember you can use your objects everywhere to select, and then you activate the form just from the pop-up button instead. So I'll just say no action and save. So it works the same way, just another way, but very handy if you can say lack the screen real estate to do it. And with all of them, everything works in the same way, script-wise, data-wise, audit trail-wise. It's just the UI is different. Okay, so if I go to the first use case for a CRM-like system here, the idea is that you obviously have some source of data you get from, you can say, an Excel file, Google Sheet, or it could be you basically manually enter your leads or what it could be in here. And at the same time, you can then change, you can say, your value of whatever you're selling and the likelihood for each of them. You change the stage, whatever, set it up as relevant for you. This is just an example I did. But I just say I have a company here, Apple, for instance, and I say, okay, just talk to them. We are now in negotiation. I think there's a 85% chance now that they will actually buy, and the value has just been set up to 2,000 instead. So I can now go in and save that. And the same way, it will be available in the rest of the data model. So all your other charts and tables will reflect that value that I just entered. And actually also in the comment object, you can have measures as well. So you can see this measure is basically just taking the project value times the likelihood to get to 1,700. But let's say you also wanted to add new records. So it's just a matter of pressing, you can insert a button as a developer. So give the user the possibility to add new records. So let's just say here we caught a big fish, Larry, from Oracle. He called us yesterday. Here, his name was like this. He found us on Google. Yesterday I did it. So he just been contacted. So I don't think the likelihood is that big yet, but it could be a huge opportunity for us. So I'll mark that with these numbers. I'll save it. And you can see now we have Larry here added to the data. So you basically now added a record to your Qlik data model using Komment. So that's pretty sleek. And at the same time, obviously you can, let's just say you wanted to look at Apple again here, for instance, you can see the full history of Apple. So when has things been changed and so forth. So there's just a normal Qlik table here, obviously, again. But let's say you also want to, you can say, you can obviously deactivate, you can say, the different companies in here that you can then use this value to define whether it should be shown in other charts as well. This is just true false value that comes out. Or you can also say, okay, I want to completely delete this record. It was a mistake. I put it in. So let's say we have a football player here. I don't know what he's doing, so somebody definitely made a mistake. So I'll just delete him, so he won't appear in the table anymore. So now you can see Kevin De Bruyne from Belgium is now gone. Obviously, he still exists in the data model, but we set a flag, you could say, in the table that he's removed, and then when the comment table will never show removed records, and all other click charts and tables you can simply define not to show them there. So that's a very handy way of working with adding and removing data. It works exactly the same way here. Again, here I'm just using a click table if I want to have different options to do other things, and then I have my form here with the lead that I can change or create. So here we'll just press new again, or whatever it could be. Here, Peter, again, seems like the likelihood is a bit too high, so I need to change that, and I save it. So it works the same way. But you can basically use this to control your customers, your leads, your suppliers, whatever you have, without actually having to have a separate Google Sheet, Excel file, or whatever you might have. You can actually keep it in here. And let's say you have a big Excel file to begin with, well, basically just load it in from the beginning as your starting case, and then you're good to go. And then you can just add data from within here. You don't have to sit and type all of them in to get started. Good. Let's move on to the next one here. So we have what we call P&L commenting. So in this one, we basically just wanted to show how you can come with remarks to specific financial statements. So this could be anything here we just created. This is actually also the comment object that we have added. And you can see here that actually, let's just see, I wanted to this line item, maybe I don't actually need to show that. So I can actually go into the widget here, so the line item, and I'll just go down here, conditional show. I set a condition that it's false, and if you can see then that's how easy you can actually show hide columns inside the table, and that can also be conditional on the user that has been logged in and so forth. So you have many ways to customize it. Also in terms of rights, so you can actually set rights to each and every object or whatever in the different elements, whether they can read and write on the on the comment object, on permission rules, so read, write, permission, and you have the same on each individual column that you can but the idea with this one is that you have your P&L that's just being updated continuously with data. So right now it looks like we have data for all months. Let's just say we only have for until October, for instance. Then you can go in and have a look if there is something the financial managers needed to look at, and you can then respond to that. So for instance, this one, you have a high increase in the operating expenses. So you can actually make that remark, and you can say, okay, that was by October, for instance. So this is just one way of doing it, but just to show that how easy it is to set it up and work with. And that data is then being saved. So afterwards, you can then go in and see, okay, what remarks were made during the year. So when we have, this would basically be each quarter, maybe each month, each week, whatever. You can say use case you have on following up on the different financial statements that you might have. Okay. Let's go to the forecasting or budgeting, you could say. Again, a simple use case that we have here. So so the idea is that you have your historic data. So it's from, let's say up until 2019, for instance. You have your data for each of your accounts. You also have the growth that you saw in that period, which you can then go in and change. So you can say, okay, 17% is a bit less small. I think it's more likely 20%, let's just say. So you can see the sales forecast number change. both in the table here and in the total. And you can basically do that for, this could be like for sales reps that has all their own accounts, that they can then only see their specific records. It could also be sales managers that then could go in afterwards, check up on the sales rep, have they inputted their budgets and so forth. So you can basically, on a rolling basis, populate the actual versus forecasting figures to make it as live as possible. That's some of the use cases we have seen at our current clients. It could also be that you don't want to, the reasons you need some manual entry to make it more real, because there obviously we know there are things going on that you cannot always forecast. So let's just say here in Denmark we have suddenly expecting a huge amount of cars to be sold here, and we can then say due to chip crisis or whatever it could be here. So instead of now taking the sales and put on the expected growth, then the budget will now respond to the manual budget instead. So that's just basically pure click scripting that you need to use from. So pretty easy to work with. But that means that the budgeting process, you're going to basically skip out your Excel files if you use those, and put it in here. So there's no manual entries in terms of adding records, adding this and that. That can all be done, or copying cells and all that you would do in Excel. That is highly prone to manual error. This can be skipped here. So and we have some very good use cases with that. And again, unlike Excel, you have the full audit trail of when changes was done, who did it, and so forth. And the Komment also respond to section access, so it's not a problem to make sure that specific sales reps and so forth can only see the records that are relevant for them. Great. So we're closing on the half hour here. So we have 2 cases left. I just want to show you. So here we have what we call data categorization, data cleaning. It could be many things. But so imagine you have a lot of data that's coming in free text format. So it's not possible to out of the box to program something that easily puts it in the right categories or whatever cases you would have. So what you do now is that you have a big table in Excel or something where you put in a mapping for all of the ones that are not correctly categorized, and then you need to load that in each time you reload to get it reflected in your data app. Here instead, use Komment, do it on the fly, because in Komment or in Sense you will basically analyze your data right away, and then you can do the categorization immediately and see the results, and everybody can see it at the same time. So you can see we have a lot of complaints here, and still a lot of them are not categorized yet. So easy way would just be to highlight the ones that are not categorized yet, and then you can basically take them one by one if you wanted to. So let's just say this here is something around purchase. Let's just say that was a transaction issue. That now you have one less uncategorized. But let's say you could also, utilize Flick's fantastic search possibilities. So you can search on late, for instance. There's nothing. What about fee? Here we have something fees. So basically, you could take all of the records I just defined here. You can go through them, see, okay, that's true, and then define those as late fee. And that will basically make it, way easier to clean your data and categorize them as you without having to have these mapping tables you need to go in and out of and do the reloads all the time. Plus, everybody will be on the same page all the time. The last one I will show you is the planning tool, you can say, that you can use here. So a Kanban way of doing project management. probably won't be the most effective tool if you have hundreds of projects. But in terms of, you can say, developing a ClickSense app, you could add this as an additional sheet to your app, and then actually both letting the user and the Click developer interact with it at the same time. So basically, you can see we have the different stages of the requests coming in, and then the user can basically from here he can go in and put in a new request. So let's say new colors on country chart, for instance here, and that's in the sales by country. If I could grab and this. He knows that's a low priority, that's fair enough, and he can then select it should be by next week. The status is here, it's, oh, sorry, I actually need to go press new first, otherwise it will be DMS. So new colors, just country, sales, do it quicker, by here, send the requests, so it's not completed yet. He can then provide additional information to the developer, and the developer can add different things to the case as well. So you can see it popped in here under requested. So basically now the developer can go in and grab any request here and say, okay, I have started developing, need more info about the color codes or whatever it could be, like this. And now you save it, and this will then move over to in development, as you can see here. So basically, that's a sneaky way to use Komment to actually control the development of your Click projects in a nice way. And all of the stuff that you see is native ClickSense. This is just, you can say, adding a bit more, you can say, interactivity, so you don't again have to rely on external Excel sheets or similar. Good. So lastly, I just also want to, before I just look at in the questions here, if as you might have noticed that some of the other extensions we have is what we call Compass, which is a navigation extension. So, and that's Compass is actually what you see here, where you basically are able to navigate your ClickSense app in a much nicer UI than you're used to with ClickSense. So also, if you're interested in that, let us know. We can definitely provide you with a free trial on that one as well. So you can see all the contact information here. So just reach out. Good. Let me just check here what it says with the questions. So I'll be hanging for a few minutes if you want to stay and just answering a few questions here. So there's a question around whether Komment works on which platforms or ClickSense platforms, and obviously this what I've shown you now is on ClickSense Enterprise. It also works on ClickSense SaaS, so we already have several customers using there, which is very popular, will only increase. And if you haven't checked it out, also check out our LinkedIn page for a use case with the ClickSense automation, where you can actually send mails using Click automation and Komment custom mails, which is very that will be very powerful to use, I believe. Another question is around the data sources that we support. So I mentioned QVDs, obviously out of the box, and then we have 5 different databases that we support. So MongoDB, Microsoft SQL, MySQL, Postgres, and Oracle. So if you want to store data in a database instead of in QVD files, that is possible as well. The pricing, all the pricing is available on our homepage. So just go on to extendbi/pricing and you can see it. Quickly show you, so you know what I'm talking about here. So from the essential plan is basically the extension only, and then from there on up, from standard on up, you are this where you have ability to also store to databases. You have the ability to to have a bit better control of concurrency and support for analyzer licenses. That's maybe the most important reason to go into a standard version, simply because otherwise with the extension only analyzer is not possible. We do also have packages for customers that have very, let's say, 5 to 10 potential users. So you can reach out about that definitely, because the users that we have here, that's the one that are active. So it's not the ones that are on your ClickSense side, but only active users. So, but please reach out if that is relevant for you. We also, last question I can say is around the partners. So we do have different partners around the world, I can say. So you can also check out, if you're a partner yourself, check out our partner program here and sign up. And otherwise, you can go in and find here some of them. You can find our partners. So we have both in US, obviously in Europe, and in South Africa as well, Israel. So there are many places. So please just reach out if you have any questions on that. And yeah. Then there's a question around the time it takes to save data with a lot of records. So that's also, you can say, a good reason for using from the standard planner up, because from the standard planner up we have you can say added module called Captain, which basically serves the communication between Click and the database. That means that the save we do, you see here when I'm in, where can I show it here? In this table here, when I do the partial reload, obviously saving that app, if it has a lot of records, it will take some time, because that's just how Click works. What we have done when you have Captain is that the save happens immediately on the table here, meaning that it won't take 10 seconds or something to display again. It will be instant, meaning that the user can actually keep working without having to wait for the data to be pushed into the app. That will just happen automatically behind the scenes, and all the data will be updated right away. So that's a huge benefit. Then there's a question around changes stored into the QED. So if I load QED into another app, I get the changes instead of the original data. Yeah, so that's probably more Click data model question, I would say, because basically we store all the data in the database. So you have all the records, and not only the last record. The last record is what's shown in the comment table here, but the QED or the database has all records. So that is just a matter of loading. You would say, do you need all, or do you only want to show latest? There's a question around cascading drop-downs in the form. That's something that we definitely will work on. So basically, you can say having one drop-down in the form here being dependent on another one. So let's just say this one, let's set it to close, then I couldn't have, let's say, follow up, for instance. It's not possible yet, but it's on our near-term roadmap, both to have it in the form, but also in the table mode, actually, where we have, you could say, a real-time calculation of the data that is inputted, meaning that you wouldn't have to do a save before you can actually see your inputs reflected. So for instance, when you have your budget or sales forecasting here, in this one where you have the likelihood and the project value, then we will actually be able to show this value immediately calculated out. Let's just say I put this to 3,000 instead. Then immediately it would switch to 3,000 here as well in the coming release, where we have that option. And that will also make it possible to do these cascading fills, or you can say drop downs. And then there's a question as to whether we can save snapshots of data into different QEDs. Right now, it only supports, you can say, one storage, but you can basically manually in your load script, you can actually just go in and insert another store statement if you like, and take the same table and store it to another QED. So that would be the way to do it right now. Okay, let me just see if there are more questions. I don't think so. No. Okay. Yeah, as I said in the beginning, please reach out if you have any questions. You can find it just either on the homepage. Here you can find any contact form. Write me directly on my email. You can sign up if you want to have a trial version or you want to have just access our demo site. And we will also send you the recording of this webinar afterwards. But thanks again for joining. Very happy to be able to share this with you. And yeah, have a great day.